To the group.
Okay, the streaming is just about started. Oh, here we go.
Any public participation?
I'm gonna let there's a few people from a bunch of people from the streaming. There we go. From the applicant. I'm gonna let them in now as well.
Oh, David's there. Good evening.
Hello.
Hey, David.
Hi.
Evening. You're leaving quickly.
What's it? Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I can't stay very long.
So Mary did say she was gonna join. She hasn't yet, but we do have a quorum. If you want to get started.
Sure, let's get started and I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call from the board. We have David Westmoreland, Kelly Bloom, Lisa Cooper, myself. Do we have any public participation? These are guests. I'm seeing now, I think. Seeing no public participation, I'll go to item 4, administration, and make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 20th, 2024 special meeting. And I made that motion, and anyone second it? Lisa seconds. Anyone see any changes, want to make any changes, or shall we approve it as is? Approve it as is, all in favor? Looks unanimous. Moving on to item A2, approve the minutes from the February 27th special meeting. The motion to approve that. Oh, there's Mary, so we have a full board meeting here. Good evening, Mary. We're just going to approve the minutes of the February 27th, 2024 special meeting. Anyone want to make any changes?
Sorry.
Seeing none. Do you want to make a change, David? No? Seeing none. All in favor of approving those minutes? Aye. Unanimous. Board. We'll go to item 4B, financials. Approve the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency Statement of Revenues and Expenditures for Operating Fund 100 for the year to date, February 29th, 2024. I made the motion. Anyone second it? Lisa seconds. Turn it over to you, Eugenia.
Okay, for the period year to date, February 29th, the operating fund 100 had actual revenues of $1,106,000 versus budgeted revenues of $1,007,000, which resulted in a favorable variance of $99,000. The actual expenditures were $1,237,000 versus a budget of $1,279,000 for a favorable variance of $42,000. The actual net operating deficit of $131,000 versus a budgeted operating deficit of $272,000 resulted in a favorable variance of $141,000.
Good. Anyone have any questions? Questions, comments? None? Do I have vote? All in favor of approving the revenues and expenditures? Unanimous. Now we go on to business, item 5. Which is one item there is the design review. And I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
All right, great. So we're joined today regarding the 2535 South Main Street project by the project applicant and also our design reviewer. We'll hand it over to the project applicant to give a brief presentation of their project and leave it to the design reviewer from there. So is there someone from the project applicant team that's going to be presenting today, or do you need share screen or anything like that?
Hi, Brad. It's Sealand. I think Liz is on, right?
I don't see Liz actually.
I don't see her
She
name
should
either.
be. She was on us a few seconds ago, but give her a minute. But if not, I can jump straight in. She was just going to give a brief introduction. Do you mind if I text her real quick?
Yeah, no problem. That's fine.
Okay. But Brian, if you have to go, I could just start. I was going to go take you to the architecture and so.
No, that's fine. Who from BFJ's on today? Who from BFJ? Maybe they haven't arrived yet. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to wait for you guys to present because I don't think BFJ is here.
Okay.
Waiting. So did everyone watch the UConn game last night? While we wait.
I got my hat ordered already.
Everybody's a little tired from staying up to watch the end.
I'll do that now.
Sealand, do you want to go through the architecture to start, or you want Liz to give the introduction?
Liz is trying to
Liz is
join
not
right
on.
now.
Oh, she is. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank Fish is joining as well. I don't know what happened.
Well, that's perfect. We need them both.
Hi, Liz.
Good evening.
Liz, I think you're on mute.
Liz, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I apologize for the delay. I was having difficulty logging on. So thank you very much for everyone for your attention tonight, for placing us on the agenda. We certainly appreciate it. My name is Liz Suchy. I'm a partner at Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy, and I represent the developer and property owner of 3135 South Main, which is TR Sono Properties. TR Sono Properties is also the contract purchaser of 25 South Main. Present tonight is Sealand Pother and Brian Goddard. They are engineers with Minefield Architecture. Derek Dene, civil engineer with Rocco V. D'Andrea, Nick Hazen of SLR project traffic engineer, and of course, Tom Rich and Alan Cosby. Also present are Tom Lidwall and Kristen Sokic. Those are individuals who are familiar with our parking process and procedures at not only the Marriott in Stamford, but also the residents in next door. So the property and the applicant before you is TR Sono Properties, TR Sono Partners, which owns 3135 South Main, contract purchaser for 25 South Main. The proposal is to redevelop the two properties, which are District 2, Block 45, lots 12 and 13, with a new 100-room hotel with the associated parking to satisfy the needs of that hotel. It would be a freestanding 8-story building, 100 rooms, 83 off-street parking spaces, with a valet parking system for all of the parking that is to be provided for the guests who will arrive at the site. There are other associated site improvements, stormwater, landscape, and some lighting. Both structures are proposed to be demolished. And as you may recall from last year, there was a proposal and an analysis of the structure at 3135 South Main prepared by Michael Devonshire, who is also on the call tonight. as to the architectural and structural significance of that parcel. He has also undertaken the same analysis of 25 South Main. We're here tonight for an introductory overview of the project to you to answer your questions. And those questions could be to either Derek or to Seelan, Brian, or any of the other members of the project team. We certainly appreciate the efforts that this commission and this agency has taken to date, and your staff, as well as those of the members of BFJ who have reviewed the proposal, shared some comments. They were kind enough to meet with us last Friday to discuss some questions and concerns, and then also met with Nick Hazen yesterday to discuss some additional items and concerns. So we strongly believe the proposal is consistent with the design guidelines that are suggestive in nature, not mandatory, set forth in the urban renewal plan of the Washington South Main Street Improvement Area 2 and the South Main Corridor Urban Renewal Plan. This proposal will generate more than $400,000 in property taxes and more than $700,000 in hotel taxes on an annual basis, create 25 to 30 full-time jobs and 200 construction jobs during construction phase. We recognize that project recognizes that the South Main Corridor has and continues to play an important role as a traditional commercial center for South Norwalk, and that is set forth in page 1 of the South Main Urban Renewal Plan. It encourages private investment in the project area, encourages new construction of architectural quality and scale consistent with the revitalized district, including the Residence Inn directly next door. Great effort has been taken to consider the urban design suggestive guidelines, and we're convinced that this new hotel will blend this new development into this harmoniously functioning area. And that comes from your from your urban renewal plan at page 10. So at this point, if Derek is on, if he could just quickly show you the survey, the site plan, so you see where the property is. And after that, we'll turn it over to Seelan Pother, and then to Mr. Haven, and then to some others for our presentation. We're happy to answer questions at any time and look forward to this discussion tonight. Derek?
Good evening. My name is Derek Donay from the firm of DeAndrea Surveying and Engineering. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, and our firm was tasked with providing both surveying and site engineering services for this project. May I share the screen? Can I do that?
You should, yes, you should have that ability.
Got it. Okay, can everyone see this? This is the existing, the site as it currently is. Right now, the site consists of 2 separate parcels. You have the one on the left here, which is the longer one. This is building number 31 through 35. And then on the right side over here, this is building number 25. We are located on the west side of South Main Street. Just to the south of our property is on the left side of the screen is the existing Residence Inn. Just to the south of that is the police station. On the west side of the project area, this is the Metro North railroad tracks. To the north of our property is another commercial development. And to the east is South Main Street. And the site is located right opposite the intersection of South Main Street and Haviland Street. They're currently on the property for building number 31 to 35. The building takes up almost the entire property. For number 25, you have about a 12-foot wide access drive entering the site with a few limited parking spaces in the back here. And then I'll show you proposed conditions. Under proposed conditions, so the part of the project is the site is going to be combined into one property with a total area of approximately 1/3 of an acre. So still a small site. We'll have one building here with parking. Then Seelan will go into that later on regarding the structure of the building, and Nick Haven can speak later on about the circulation. But the current proposal is to have a one-way in at the northern end of the property, circulate through, and a one-way out at the southern end of the property. They're also proposing to get new streetscape along the front, which will include new sidewalks, the brick edge treatment, the tree planters, which currently there are no street trees on in front of the site. So we have 3 proposed here. And then in regards to the site, I don't need to get into all the storm drainage and other aspects of it right here, but it's so I guess right now I should move into for Sealand to speak about the building. If you have any questions about the site layout, please let me know. All right. Sealand, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. I'll share. Everyone see that? Good. Okay. Good evening. My name is Sealand Puth. I'm a principal at Beinfeld Architecture. As you know, this is the second time the general concept of a new hotel adjacent to the existing Sono Residence Inn has come before you. This version has two specific differences. This is an independent hotel, not connected physically or operational-wise to the existing Residence Inn. The design includes 25 South Main Street, the site adjacent to 3135 South Main Street, which was in the original application. Our design approach, however, was similar to the last iteration. Salient design considerations were to create a hotel concept that built on our experience delivering the Residence Inn and hopefully created an elevated product in terms of experience and amenities. We're trying to create a building that fit in cohesively with the neighboring hotel and neighborhood that is continuing to evolve. You see the construction around. And create architecture that is respectful of the historic nature of the neighborhood, but also has a more contemporary approach to that vernacular. With those goals in mind, I'll walk you through the existing conditions and the proposed building. I'll keep it brief so that we can discuss your third-party review after. So this is the location of the site, right here. Here's the police station. Here's the train station. The tracks go around the back. It's these two properties right here, adjacent to this hotel, completed a few years ago, very successful. A street with a lot of historic character, including the jewels on the street, which are these two buildings, the fire insurance building and the building next door. I'm sure you're very familiar with that, with the context. So the basic design approach was to be contextual to the architecture of the street and the adjacent Residence Inn, which you see here. We broke up the massing into three principal vernaculars. This punched opening here, this brick treatment here that is more evokes the vernacular of the existing hotel, but it's limited to center mass in this location. And because we had these two brick facades that were adjacent directly to the existing hotel, we didn't want them to touch. So we created this more modern expression, a flat facade with more modern cladding and windows face forward of that cladding to be that bridge between these two buildings. We thought that was appropriate. But what you can see here is a series of planes. I'll do this twice in both the renderings, but 1, 2, 3, and this sits back even further 4, and then a roof line above. You see here also how closely this building relates in scale to the Residence Inn. And that's this function also of what your zoning allows for hotels. Here's another rendering. It's a view looking north on Main Street. You see again the articulation, the different planes. Here's 1, here's 2, 3, and 4 back there. You see that the base continues the scale of the two-story building adjacent. One of the comments from your review, and we appreciated, was to take this cornice and this trim and lift it to the underside of the windows, which is a traditional detail. So it more closely aligns with this trim on the adjacent building. But there is a line that is created between this building, our base, and the base of the hotel. You also see that this entrance is center mass. Is one of the lessons we learned from the Residence Inn, is that we wanted to create a presence that's directly on the street. It's center of this architecture here. It has a canopy, the flags similar to the hotel next door, and a revolving door. So everything about it says hotel entrance. And then here, this is the rear, the train track side. So we're interested in how Norwalk's built environment reads from the train tracks. We started that with our ideas on the platform building next to our offices. We're suggesting a structure here that evokes steel structures along the railroad, like the bridge close by. And it's also somewhat whimsical element that creates a moment of interest to a person on the train, and provides some sort of placemaking and branding for the hotel. And that's this element here. We're going to have a pool. We'd like to have a pool at this hotel. We're speaking to hotel brands now about that. And this would be a room for, maybe it's a gym, maybe it's a summer room for residents. So a little bit more amenitized in the building next door. So I'll pause on this slide and give you a few of the building metrics. The building's 8 stories high and 85 foot measured to flat roof. 100 hotel rooms, 83 parking spaces, all valet with vehicle elevators. Approximately 6,000 square foot of hotel lobby and amenity space. Proposing a pool in the scheme, like I said. And there'll be the usual back of house, including linen, trash, and support type rooms. So with that, I'll walk you through the plans. This is, oh no, sorry. This is the basement. So vehicle elevators, I'll explain that in a second. All valet spaces, right? So you dig down, and people come down here, the valet, but your back of house is down here, your utility rooms and your linen rooms. Again, a lot of this is repeating a successful model of the hotel next door and how we executed that. This is the first floor. I think we're going to talk a little bit today about the circulation, but the design concept here, and we did try many variations on how this should work, and Tom and his team went back and spoke to people who manage their hotels and said, how do we want this thing to work? What do we want the experience to be? And we landed on this, which is a road that takes you through and around. So it's essentially a one-way loop and a drop-off, seamless. You'd come in. It's a 2-volume space in here for a few reasons, but one is a design reason that it says this is where you should enter. So you'd come in here, you'd loop around to this area where valet would be standing to take your car. So once you get to the spot, you leave your car, and then you enter the hotel lobby in this area. This program is just suggestive. It's based on what we know people might want, brands might want on the first floor or lobby, but this will change as Tom Rich and his team talk to different brands. But this is the entrance to the hotel. So you could come through here, get your car valeted and walk in. Uber could come through here, drop you off, and you'd walk in. Uber Eats could come in here, drop off food, and then loop out. So we see it as a seamless way for this to operate. Because it's such a tight site, because we don't have the luxury of entering through the Residence Inn like the previous scheme that was before you, this scheme employs car elevators. It's not novel. Tom Rich and his team have this in their residence, or Marriott in Stamford. I think it's a Marriott in Stamford. It works very well. They know how to do it. They know how to execute it. So we employ it here. There's 3 floors of parking. This is the mezzanine level of parking. So as you create a 2-volume space for your amenities for your hotel, you put a level of parking behind it, again, serviced by the elevators. And as you go up, it becomes more typical. It's a double-loaded corridor, hotel rooms, singles, doubles, and some suites. And here's that pool with the amenity that leads to a structure behind, 2nd floor. Once you get above that, it's very typical. We're already talking to brands about maybe we want to move the elevators to this side and so on. So this is fluid, how we appoint these rooms and exactly how this lays out. And then finally, I'll stop here for the plans. Just generally, the idea here is to create a roof deck. It's been a successful element of the Residence Inn. So this is This is the same concept, creating a roof deck here that people can go out and it's beautiful views of Long Island Sound from that elevation. And finally, just some materials, the extensive use of brick, cast stone at the bottom, so that's all traditional. And again, a composite panel we wanted to use in this area, intentionally to make it a little different as you bridge between the two structures, two adjacent structures. So with that, and so that's the basic building summary. I just wanted to go through BFJ's summary of recommendations and page 8 of the report very quickly. Frank Fisher, who might be on the call, was very kind to meet with us on Friday and go through them in advance of this meeting. I'll leave this plan up because that's probably the one we're going to speak about the most. So the first point was the elimination of the southern garage opening. So we'll come back to that, right? Second was the ornamental tree planted grades. We explained that, and we explained the Norwalk standard, and we'll be following that. The fiber cement panels on the front facade, we spoke about that, but about that being intentional, that being a modern facade that we wanted to employ. Still open to any comments on that. That was our intent. Break up the horizontal massing. We spoke to him about how we've broken up the building, 4 different planes I described. Emphasize pedestrian access points. Again, we emphasize that we learned from the previous hotel and this revolving door and the canopy and so on. Center mass should screen hotel entrance. Make windows of the second floor punched. We discussed that. That was about scale and how the building's base related to the buildings next door. We went over that a little while ago. And then the rest of them were very simple ones. Conceal the trash receptacles, yes. Clear signage, yes. Clarify fire egress. Buildings being reviewed by the fire marshal, but as we get into CDs, we'll refine that, and they'll get a second bite at that, and determine total building coverage. And we will do that, and we have done that. But I'll go back to this. So this central point with Frank on Friday, as we went through this informally, was whether we wanted this to be the circulation, and whether this was the right solution. I think is a better way to put it. And the short answer is yes, we think it is. We think experientially it's the right reason. Design-wise, we think it's the right solution. But I think we'll discuss it further. And so I'll bring in Nick at this point to discuss technically why we chose this. Nick? Well, thanks. And I'll take any, I suppose I'll take any questions whenever you guys have them.
Myself. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for having us. My name is Nick Havan. I'm a registered professional engineer and a professional traffic operations engineer with close to 40 years in the industry. As a principal at SLR International, we actually serve as the traffic consultants within the project team. So we at SLR prepared the traffic impact study for the proposed 100-room hotel project. We conducted the study in 3 phases. I'll just go quickly through that. The first phase involved an evaluation of the existing traffic conditions within the study area. This included an inventory of existing roadway and intersection geometry, observation of traffic volumes, and evaluation of safety conditions. In the second phase of the study, we established a basically what's called a framework for evaluating the transportation impacts of the hotel and assessing the travel demands forecasts for the site. In the third and final phase, we conducted the traffic analysis to evaluate the intersection operations for both the background and combined conditions. Background is future conditions without the hotel, and combined is future conditions when the hotel is fully built and operational. And we used this analysis to basically to determine the potential project impacts for the development. Well, based on the capacity analysis that we've done, the hotel, the traffic operations along the study intersections and the roadways will generally remain unchanged, and it's expected that the traffic volumes from the proposed hotel is will have a negligible impact on the traffic operations around the area. So going back to the circulation on this, as Ciro mentioned, from the get-go, we looked at several options and we narrowed them down to a one way in and one way out, and actually we also looked into a two-way driveway as George's and Frank mentioned from BFJ, and this basically trumps all of the options. You know, this is with such a small footprint for the hotel and trying to keep the number of the parking spaces. This is the only way that we can operate correctly. There's a lot of pros, and we've done pros and cons for both options. There's a lot of pros for this. It reduces actually the conflict points. Conflict points are the points that turning movements are creating, and it's actually a safety issue. With separating the two driveways, we are reducing the conflict points at the intersections of the driveway at the South Main. The internal circulation is much more smoother. We have a narrower aisles within the hotel, narrower pedestrian crossings. You know, that provides like, and it's less confusion for pets. You know, when they're crossing, they don't have to look both sides of the sidewalk for entering and exiting traffic. It separates the drop-off and pickup areas for the valet. The last thing you want is having the entering vehicles, when they're entering to drop off their valets, are troubled by exiting vehicles that are parked there. And it provides space for the service and delivery vehicles as well. So in a nutshell, those are the pros for this one, for this option. That's what we tended to this, and this is like a luxury hotel, and we like to present that for our guests too, and also the Uber drivers and DoorDash and all this delivery stuff as well, to experience that. So, and another thing that is issue over here on our frontage is, as Derek mentioned earlier, it's just opposite of the Haviland Street. So it's at an intersection. There was a talk from George's and Frank at BFJ that, did I miss something? Okay, thank you. To provide,
I'm just showing the intersection.
That's here.
Right there.
Yeah, so this frontage, you know, what we have here is we have a crosswalk right smack in the middle of our front. And they were mentioning using that sidewalk for loading and unloading. That sidewalk, that crosswalk needs to be lighted. In other words, we cannot to be safe for the pedestrians, they have to be visible. We cannot have any parking or any stopping 10 feet on each side of it. So that's like 20 feet. And then we also have a fire hydrant on the other side, next to our southern exit. So very possible that fire department will require that area to be a fire lane, just to say that, right, this is a better scene that you can see. So this whole area, as you see, the crosswalk is right between the two driveways. It does not leave us any space, and the road itself is not wide enough to accommodate two 11-foot lanes and a 8-foot parking spot. And I, as a traffic engineer, would not recommend stopping or parking across the street at the T intersection. That's just not safe for the drivers, for the pedestrians, for everyone. So that's my observation over here, and that's what I'm free to answer any questions if you like.
If I may, I like the driving off the street and dropping off and coming out. That seems to work well. The space here, though, seems very small. So if you have someone checking in, someone coming back to the hotel, an Uber driver, a DoorDash driver, can you quickly get a jam going in there that will spill over into the street?
We don't expect that much. This is the hotel is that's a great question. The hotel is in a transit-oriented design district, as you know. So, and in our study, you know, we try to stay on a conservative side and deal with this as a very just a regular hotel, not as a TOD. So even with those numbers, which are a lot higher, we don't anticipate any of that spillover onto the street. We do have the standard 24 feet aisle. That includes the 8-foot space for the dropping off vehicles. If you look at it, if you close in on this, Celine, is it possible? That parking area, that 24 feet, goes all the way to the edge of the entrance over there. So the parking. So that's enough for the cars to stop and then pass by it, if that answers the question, John.
Okay. And I assume fire trucks would not have to go in there.
Fire trucks, that's another thing. The fire trucks, they're gonna work from outside, but small emergency vehicles, the ambulances, EMTs, they certainly enter.
Okay.
It's the height. This height is allows them to enter.
And just if I may add, if it wasn't clear before, it's an entirely valet parked system. So if someone comes in, they're met after they've come off the street, and either where it says open to above, they're either met with an attendant in that location on the north entrance, or just as they pull their car around and come to where the cursor is showing that hatched area. And then the valet system is trained to move the cars out, get them to the double elevators or into spaces that may exist. So it frees up that area rather nicely.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Does anyone have any other questions of Nick or Celine at this point? If not, if it's okay with all of you, if we could have, let's see. I think it might be beneficial to have a little bit of presentation by Todd or Kristen, because they're familiar with how this system would work, how the valet system works. And they may be able to further answer your question or clarify how the conflicts are avoided based upon the valet system. So perhaps,
Sure.
Todd? Could you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
I'm Todd Linvall, the area general manager for the Courtyard and Residence Inn by Marriott Stanford Downtown Hotels. We opened the Courtyard in 2005 and the Residence Inn in 2018 with a shared parking garage. The hotel guest parking usage is just above currently 50%. The hotel project, this hotel project, I'm sorry, will operate very similar to my properties as it relates to the design of the car elevators and the 24-hour valet. Although we are very successful, one of our operational challenges that we have is with the arrival and departure experience, and that is because we don't have the ability to exit the porte-cochere as it relates to pickups, drop-offs, Ubers, and taxis and deliveries. We only have one way in, and we don't have the design that's being showcased here with the exit as well. So this can cause, for us anyways, without that exit, it can cause a delay, backing up traffic for blocks sometimes down the street. The design for this project with the entrance and exit would definitely eliminate that challenge for sure. I would like to also with us here is Kristen with ProPark. He has operated our parking operational garage since its existence, and he'll be operating the garage at this location as well. And I would just ask him to comment on how the operational procedures work.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Sokic. I'm an executive vice president for ProPark Mobility. I've been in parking management for close to 30 years now. I've operated over 500 parking operations throughout the New York metropolitan area. And based on my experience, this operational model is very well thought out. It allows us to have a significant amount of runway for queuing. I think it was John who asked the question earlier. You know, it seems like you have a short little runway. This is going to be a managed operation. So the vehicles that will be parked on this level are going to be vehicles that are either scheduled to leave or that have just come in. So we'll be able to queue cars in those spots that are parallel in front of the stacked parking spots in case there's a mini rush that occurs. In addition to that, this layout's a much safer option than just having one area of ingress and egress. The valets won't have to perform a K-turn within the garage. You also will not have a pinch point at that first elbow. You know, there is the propensity there if somebody's coming in and leaving at the same time due to the wider turning radius that, you know, you could have a pinch point there. So this layout, the way it is with the one-way traffic flow, works out really nice. When people are leaving, we'll be able to queue up their cars right in the exit lane there. I also think you'll benefit from more daylighting out on the street since you have Haviland, which kind of dumps off right in front of the hotel. It'll be much easier for folks to get in and out of the hotel parking area versus just having the one entrance and exit.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the volume of cars that can be moved through with that management system before it starts to back up?
Sure. So if this is a 3-level deck, right? So there's one level of parking above this ground level, one level below this ground level. The space is pretty evenly dispersed, and you have 2 vehicle elevators, right? And that's for redundancy purposes. Technically, you know, one would be enough based on a footprint of 84 parking spots. The second one is there to enhance the retrieval and parking times. In case anything mechanically ever happened to the first one, you would still have a second elevator to operate with. You know, based on this layout, it should never really take more than, you know, maybe 3 or 4 minutes to get a car from any one, you know, from either the floor above or the floor below. And certainly on the main level, it could be a minute or less.
I think my question was not directly related with that, but I'm thinking, is there any space in this hotel where there could be for public gatherings so that you might get a volume of, say, 50 cars that are trying to arrive within a half an hour period? And what would that mean with this design? But I don't know if there's a public space, but I'm just trying to get a sense of, say, within a half an hour, some short period of time, how many cars could flow through there without there being a backup to the street?
Typically, if there's a public event taking place, we're going to know about it in advance, and we'll be able to staff accordingly. So if we typically have 1 or 2 valets on a shift in a normal standard operation, let's say there was an event that required 20 extra cars were going to be coming in, we would staff it up and have 3 or 4 valets on duty to handle the extra load. Does that help?
So is there going to be a space where there could be public events in this hotel?
Yeah, I don't think that there's a minimal event space. I believe it's all hotel rooms.
Commissioner Pennison, it's limited. There is some space on the first floor, as you see, lobby, breakfast bar, employee lounge, but those are generally for guests of the hotel. There is a rooftop bar, but that also is limited in size. It doesn't encompass the entirety of the roof. It's similar in its field to the rooftop bar that exists at the Residence Inn, but it's not there isn't space on the site to accommodate, a wedding or a large corporate event. There just is not that kind of large meeting space or gathering space. It's much smaller than that.
And you said there was enough space from the inside entrance that if there was an emergency vehicle parked there in front, another car can get around it?
The drive aisle is 24 feet wide, so that should be sufficient for an ambulance to surround a car that may be parked. And of course, with valet, if there's an emergency vehicle that needs to come in, they'll have to move those vehicles and out of the way so that that emergency services vehicle could enter and negotiate around the first curve and then out and come out along the south exit, excuse me.
Yes, if you remove these 4 cars and these 4 valet spaces by taking them out and down the elevator, then this opens up to a regular drive aisle.
24 feet wide.
I just would like to point out, we have very similar meeting space size at the Courtyard and Residence Inn in Stamford. We have 3 different food and beverage outlets, and we don't have an issue. And the nice thing about this project is they designed ample staging area. The ground floor really can assist with that as it relates to a number of vehicles arriving at the same time.
And am I looking at this correctly, that there's 4 charging spots for the hotel?
That's correct, on that level.
Yes.
Yeah, there's more on the second floor.
There's 4 on this level and
There are 5, there's 6 there.
more up here. And as we usually do, we provide the infrastructure for those as is required by Connecticut, and then decide how many to put in, but at least 2%.
Okay, is that every thing from the applicant team, or is there anything else you wanted to present, Liz, or anyone else?
No, Mr. Bedoli, I think that concludes our presentation for now. We're certainly happy to answer any questions that may emerge, but we look forward to hearing what your design consultants have to say and further questions or comments from the commissioners. So that's
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, we had our design reviewer, Frank Fish, scheduled. He's not available right now. We've been trying to connect with him, but he has not logged on. So what I think we'll do, I'll review some of the comments of the design report. We've been in consultation with them, and also some comments that we received from TMP, and we can have a discussion or additional questions from there, just so you all have the background. I think, within the context of the South Norwalk TOD redevelopment plan, if you refer to the memorandum provided by BFJ, I think it's in your agenda. I think it's referenced as page. Let me pull it up here real quick for you. It's labeled as page 1, starting on the BFJ memorandum, but I'll go to page 4 of that. And a couple items that were addressed by Seelan, I think specifically that he talked about. So I think some of these conversations may have been addressed with your negotiations that occurred on Friday. But one of the things that the design reviewers focused on was the general massing of the project and wanting the applicant to strengthen the prominence of the building. I think we spoke a little bit to that. Visually reducing the larger building scale within the context. Taking a look at ways to emphasize the facade rhythm and patterns. And the general comment that we were hearing and is included in the design review report is a interest in further cohesion with the surrounding context of the historic district. I think there's some concern with the building materials that I think were, references a design choice. But in terms of how it references the plan, our design reviewer was hoping a little bit more effort could be made there to create a more context and cohesive design. The example they gave was to provide additional breaks in the facade, to look at the neighboring buildings. I think that's something that has been discussed. And then the three vertical sections I think was alluded to, and I could allow the applicant to address that in terms of what discussions occurred with Frank on Friday that helped in that regard. I think the other piece is the materials, the stone and fiber cement panels, saying that they're not compatible with the district and the surrounding building materials. So there was concern in that regard. And I think what we've heard too is just comments, not just from our design review consultant, but also the city's transportation management and parking division in our collaborative consultative design review process to look at better ways to encourage the efficient vehicular circulation. I just received an email from them that I'll go through. These are comments submitted by Norwalk TMP. They asked for consideration at our meeting. They're still working on their report, so it's a bit of an open item on their end, but they wanted to make sure that we receive these tonight, given the fact that the timing and the consideration that the applicant was hoping we could advance at this meeting. I'll read these comments just so that they're in the record. Recognizing that having all traffic enter exit from a single driveway curb cut is preferable due to the negative effects that additional driveways have on the pedestrian environment. The location of the northern curb cut is preferable to the southern one because of the southern curb cut's proximity to the driveway immediately to the south for the residents in, and because of its proximity to the natural pedestrian crosswalk across the south leg of the intersection. Secondly, all pickup, drop-off, delivery operations should take place off-street as opposed to curbside along the west side of South Main Street in front of the hotel's main entrance. The driveway design should accommodate such activities readily so as to naturally discourage them from taking place on street. A continuous level sidewalk treatment should be used at any new proposed site driveway as opposed to having the sidewalk ramp down to the driveway. The site development should include a pedestrian crosswalk across the south leg of the intersection at South Main Haviland Street with curb ramps and appropriate signage. It says current TMP standard design policies to include crosswalks at all legs of an intersection. RRFBs are recommended for the crosswalk across South Main Street, and they asked the applicant look into curb extensions at the crosswalks across South Main Street to enhance pedestrian safety and calm traffic. The valet parking system is okay, but they need to have it proven / demonstrated that the valet system is fast, responsive enough to process vehicles without queues spilling out of the driveway onto South Main Street. And finally, bike parking should be included with the development, but should be located on site, off the sidewalk. There's a bike rack visible in the architectural plan at the southeast corner of the site. So I know that's probably a lot even for the applicant to digest right here. These are comments that are literally at 5:55 p.m. We just wanted to make sure that it was all out on the table for our discussion here. I think it's a bit challenging without our design reviewer here, but I think what we could do is we could maybe offer an opportunity for you to, ask any questions in that regard. I know you responded to some of the outstanding items, but I think from our perspective, the two things that are remaining are the materials and some of the architectural treatments within the context of the historical character of the area. So I'll put that out there for.
If I just may jump in here. Make one comment, Tom, beforehand. May I just make one comment? I'd just like the commission and the redevelopment agency staff to know that we forwarded this plan and this application to TMP 8 weeks ago, and tonight's the first time that we're hearing that they have comments, despite several attempts to gather comments from them. I appreciate the fact that they are providing them, but it was 8 weeks ago that we submitted this application.
That's all right. Liz, if I may jump in here with a few comments. I know it says Emmy Sasaki under my name, but my name's Tom Rich. Emmy works in my office somehow.
when she set my thing up. We got to fix that. But anyway, for those of you who have not met, I'm Tom Rich, president of the FD Rich Company. I'm the sponsor here of this application. I read the BF, and first for your patience and listening, and well, questions are all good, and we're happy to answer anything. Let me say, I read the BFJ report carefully, and I just listened to Brian's comments. There's not a lot in that report that I agree with. I mean, very little of it, quite frankly. I think that Byfield has done an amazing job at creating a building that is contextual, that fits well within the neighborhood. They have used materials that are from the neighborhood. The building's covered in brick. There's, as Seelan said at the beginning of his presentation, the only piece that you could say is more contemporary is the piece where we break from the residence inn to the new building and provide some relief, which is a smart move on their part. Seelan explained to you how the scale of this building is broken down into 5 pieces. They've done that by creating a building that looks like 3 buildings. They've also varied the depth of the facades to break those facades down. And they created a setback balcony on the roof. So I'm not sure where these comments are from, that it's not contextual, that the materials don't fit in, and that more work needs to be done on that. Now, you know, maybe Byfield will have some ideas, but I think they've done a great job at doing exactly what we really wanted in there. If you look at the Residence Inn, it's a very symmetrical building. It's got, you know, a bottom, a middle, and a top. On the top of it, there's setbacks where there are 2 terraces. This building is the definition of asymmetrical. And again, it's meant to look like 3 buildings. You got variation in material and facade depths, and I think it fits in very well. As far as this notion that anything that happens in Sono should be red brick and look like it was built in 1850, I completely disagree with that. That's a personal preference. But if you look at what we did at Harborside Sono, which is a building that is universally loved, it's got a variety of materials. It has, I don't think it has any brick on it, now that I think of it. It's all panels and a metal panel and a variety of colors, and it fits in. If we were to design every single building in the neighborhood to look like a brick building, it would be completely unexciting. That's a personal preference. You may disagree with me, and I certainly respect if you do. But I think what they've done here is a nice blend of mostly old, but they've got a little bit of new in there. So that's my opinion about BFJ's opinion, which I don't agree with. The next thing I want to talk about is the you heard not only from our traffic consultant, but you heard from the operators, the boots on the ground, the people that are going to be running this garage, that it's a bad system to have cars coming in and coming out in the same place. Let me just try to simplify it. The way this is going to work, whether you're a hotel guest, whether you're an Uber driver, taxi driver, Uber Eats, drop-off vehicle, is you're going to pull in one way, you're going to drop off, and you're going to loop through and pull out the other way. Very seamless. If you have to turn around within the garage because you've now, you know, the valets have met the car, they've unloaded the luggage, etc., and they've and now the driver's got to back out. He's got to make like a 5-point turn to get out. It doesn't make any sense. What we've presented is a way for a customer or an Uber driver or a taxi driver to come in to a weather-protected, lit, safe, controlled environment, which is seamless for them to pull in and pull out. There's a prominent entrance right there. If you want to put up the plan again, Seelan, I will show you. There's a prominent entrance into the hotel ground floor, where there will be the drop-offs, which will happen, and then the car will go out seamlessly. So to approach this from the standpoint of, well, there's too many curb cuts, that doesn't make sense. That's not the priority here. The priority should be safety, customer experience. There's not a lot of traffic volume coming in and out of this building. So it's not like, the pedestrians are going to be standing there waiting to cross two driveways. It's just not going to happen. Ms. Peniston, you asked about safety. And I'm sorry, about an ambulance or a vehicle, an emergency vehicle. First of all, depending on the direness of the emergency, the ambulance might not even enter. They might just pull up on the curb, even though there's really no place to park. I mean, when there's an emergency going on, they're going to do whatever they have to do to enter the building and protect somebody who might be ill or having a seizure or something like that. You're not going to have to get your car, because if there's an emergency, you're going to call 911, right? You're not going to dig your car out in the event. If somebody's got something that's non-life threatening and they're not in a massive hurry, they'll call down and they'll get their car and plan. It would be helpful for this discussion, because I want to show you something that was kind of glossed over. Or if somebody can pull it up. I don't know. Did we lose Seelan? Oh, there he is.
Can you see my screen, Tom?
No. Can everybody see it?
Can anyone else?
I see.
We have
You
the
see
first
it.
floor screen is up.
All right. Well, I don't see it. And maybe I got to do something to see it, but I know it well enough to point out that the area across from the entrance to the hotel in the garage, all those tandem spaces, that's meant to be a staging area. So when you talk about, will there be backups out onto the street? Never going to happen in this project, ever. Will there be bottlenecks within the garage? No, that area right where you see all those tandem spots is sort of like the reservoir area. That's sort of the area where all the action is going to happen, so that the drive aisle is always kept open, so that somebody can seamlessly drive through, drop off, pick up, and drive right out. This is a really great experience. What BFJ is saying is drop them off on the curb. No, who wants to be dropped off out on the curb when it's 0 degrees out and it's snowing and raining? First of all, the area south of the crosswalk.
Tom, you're cutting out.
It's adequate in terms of its length, but also, can you hear me now? I don't know what's going on.
Yes, we can.
Maybe I'm losing power. Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
all right. So what I was going to say, lost my train of thought, is that if you look at the width of the roadway between the west side of South Main Street to the east side of South Main Street, which is the hotel frontage. I'm sorry, we're on the west side. The hotel frontage is on the west side. If you measured the width from the east side of South Main to the west side of South Main in front of the hotel, you get 35 feet. Now, on the east side, there's a row of parking, which is 8 feet. If you then say, well, I need two 11-foot drive lanes, which you do on that busy street, you're up to 30 feet. 8 and 11 and 11 is 22 plus 8 is 30 feet. The width of the street right there, curb to curb, is 35 feet. You really need 8 feet of width to put a drop-off car there in front of the hotel. So there's not enough width to even do it. You're 3 feet short. Right at a turn where you're coming off of Haviland, trying to turn left onto South Main, heading south with oncoming traffic. It doesn't work. And so what Jacquemart is saying is, well, either do that. If you can't do that, then everybody should pull into the garage. And when you want to leave, you're going to have to do a 3-point turn or a 4-point turn or do whatever it takes to get back out. It's stupid. I'm sorry for using that word, and I don't mean it in an insulting way. I don't, because I know everybody's professionals. But to me, it doesn't work. This is the best way for everybody, not only for the city, for the pedestrian, for the hotel customer, for the drivers. It's seamless. You slide in and slide out. So those are my two main points. I wanted to just last touch on an important point that was raised about an emergency. If there's a real emergency, you're going to call 911, and they're going to pull up front, or they're going to probably understand how this works and drive in. But I would imagine an ambulance is going to pull up front like they do anywhere, and they're going to go in the front door. Two other points. Our plan has been reviewed and approved by the fire department, which wasn't mentioned, but they already reviewed it and signed off on it, Norwalk Fire Department. And then I may have something else, I'll think of it. But anyway, I thank you for your time, but I just wanted to clear up any things and also give you my point of view, how I see this. I know what I was going to say. The Residence Inn it has this problem next door. First of all, somebody asked the question about, do we have examples of how the valet will work speed-wise, and is it going to be system breakdown? You don't have to look any further than the Residence Inn next door, which when they're full, they implement their valet system. They don't have to have valet all the time, because during the day, for example, or when the hotel's running at a lower occupancy, people can drive in and park themselves, because that building has ramps. The reason it has ramps is because we had enough land over there when we developed that to put ramps in. This site is smaller, and you can't have ramps. So we implemented the car elevator scheme, which we used successfully in Stamford at the Courtyard by Marriott, which has been in successful operation for 20 years with 2 car elevators. It's 115 rooms. We have 2 car elevators. There are no ramps. It's valet 24/7, and it's super successful hotel. People love it, and the valet system is fine. So this is 100 rooms. It's less than the 102 rooms next door, and it's less than the 115 rooms in Stamford. So there's no question that properly staffed and properly operated, which we're expert at, you will not have an issue with backups or any problems. I think what's going on here is it's sort of like, well, we don't want the curb cuts, so we'll have you come in and out the same way. But to me, that's a bad argument. It doesn't matter that there's a 20-foot curb cut and a 10-foot curb cut. It doesn't matter, because it's about the operation and how everything should flow seamlessly. That should take precedence. Those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for your patience and listening.
Hey, Brian, this is Seelan. Thanks, Tom. I just want to add, I don't want to mischaracterize our conversation with Frank Fish on Friday, but we went through those comments that you mentioned. I think we walked him through and he understood our approach. His architectural designer wasn't on the call. He was going to speak to them after the call. I think we're down to details on that, but we're happy to speak again. We want to speak again with his designer on the call. But I don't think those are open items. I think those are items in the process of closing out, hopefully. Again, I don't want to mischaracterize our conversation.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think the commission would like to take this under advisement and look at it and look at the design review. Brian, can we schedule another meeting and give us enough time to review this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think in the interim, to Sealand's point, perhaps a conversation that we're all just get on the same page, just make sure those open items are closed. And then also just resolve this TMP issue, because I hear, both sides with the applicant and Tom's comments. I think resolving that with TMP will go a long way to make sure everyone's comfortable with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we could do that. We could set that up in short order. So we'll work with you guys to do so.
We're happy to talk to, have another conversation, certainly with you and your staff. If you can have TMP on that call, and as indicated, any further discussions that are necessary with BFJ. The whole purpose of this is to get to a point that everyone's satisfied and comfortable so the project can move forward and improve that section of town. We think it's going to be a great asset to it. So whatever we need to do on our end, we're happy to.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Is any more discussion on this particular project?
Just thank you very much for your time, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And we'll be
Thank
back
you.
before you again shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
I enjoyed everyone's
Thanks, everyone.
comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Generally, I think we need a hotel in that area. I don't object too strongly to the design, but I'd like to see the review and what was being said. I personally like the parking off the street. I think it'll flow better. But let's review it carefully. Can you get that out to everyone?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. When do we want to have another meeting? Want to do it next month, or do you want to do another meeting sooner?
Let me speak with the design reviewer and then the team, and then I'll talk with the applicant as well to see what they're prepared for, and then I could get back to you all. Does that work?
Okay. That works for me. Everyone else? Good? Okay. Any other comments? Anyone have some great concerns or are pleased with what we've seen? Generally, no?
Given the constraints of the area, they're being creative, but I do worry about the density and the traffic. And especially given that it's almost there at the corner.
I don't disagree with you, Mary. That's why I started asking questions about if they were going to spill out into the street. There are some times on a Friday night you can't turn off Haviland onto that street. So let's see what they come back with and what the review people had to say. All right. So you'll talk to everyone and get back to us if we have to schedule a special meeting or we just do it at next month's meeting.
Yeah, I should be able to resolve that by the end of this week. I'll let you guys know in terms of timing, what we're looking at.
Okay, good. What else do we have on? That's it. No new business or old business? I'll turn to Mary for a motion to.
Adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. And we here. Happy evening. Have a nice evening, everyone.
All right, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.